My name is Tom, 35M, and I guess you could say I'm in a situation I never thought I'd be in. This all started back when I was just 20 years old. I met Megan, 35F, during our junior year of high school. She was everything to me, smart, funny, and we just clicked in a way that made it seem like we were meant to be together. We were inseparable. We didn't get married, though. Marriage felt too big, too permanent, and honestly, we thought we had all the time in the world. We were just living life, two young people in love, trying to make it in the world. Back then, I was working my ass off trying to build a career in finance. I started off as an intern, getting coffee and running errands, but I knew that if I worked hard enough, I'd eventually move up. Megan, on the other hand, was a barista at a local coffee shop. She didn't make much, but we were surviving. We lived in this tiny apartment, but it didn't matter because we had each other. Life was good, or at least it seemed that way. Everything changed when Megan got pregnant. It wasn't planned, but we were excited in our own way. We were scared, sure, but we thought we could handle it. When our daughter, Mia, was born, it was the most beautiful, terrifying day of my life. Megan went through a brutal 14-hour labor, and I could see the toll it took on her. After Mia was born, Megan seemed different. She was struggling, but I thought it was just because of the exhaustion from the labor. I had no idea how bad things were going to get. The first few weeks after Mia was born were rough, to say the least. Megan became distant, almost like she was a different person. She'd spend hours just staring out the window, and when she did speak, it was to criticize me. She'd snap at me, call me useless trash, and it felt like nothing I did was ever good enough. I tried to be understanding, thinking it was just the stress of being a new mom. I was doing my best to juggle everything, work, taking care of Mia, and trying to support Megan, but it was overwhelming. I'd come home after a long day, completely drained, only to find that Megan hadn't even touched Mia's things. She'd be sitting there, doing nothing, while our daughter cried in the next room. I didn't know what to do. I was terrified of saying the wrong thing and making it worse. Then, one day, I came home from work, and the house was eerily quiet. I walked into Mia's room, and there she was, crying her little lungs out in her crib. She'd been left alone for hours. I frantically searched the house, but Megan was gone. Her clothes, her personal items, everything was gone. No note, no explanation, nothing. I tried calling her, but her phone was off. I contacted her parents, her friends, anyone who might know where she went, but no one had any answers. After months of searching, I finally had to accept that she wasn't coming back. She had abandoned us, just like that. Adjusting to single fatherhood was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. In the beginning, I was a mess. I was sleep deprived, stressed out, and constantly worried that I wasn't doing enough for Mia. But I had a lot of support from my parents and my sister. They stepped in to help whenever they could, and I don't know how I would have managed without them. Slowly, I figured out how to balance work and taking care of Mia. It wasn't easy, but I made it work because I had to. As Mia grew up, I made sure she had everything she needed. She was a happy, well-adjusted kid despite everything. I was honest with her about her mother leaving, but I kept the details vague. I didn't want to burden her with the full story, at least not until she was older. Mia was a bright, curious child, and she asked questions, but I always tried to keep my answers simple and reassuring. For years, my focus was entirely on Mia and my career. I didn't date much, didn't really have the time or energy for it. But when Mia turned 12, I met Olivia, 33F. We took things slow, and she was incredibly understanding of my situation. Olivia and Mia got along well, and that was important to me. After a while, Olivia and I fell in love, and we've been together ever since. Life was good, my career had taken off, Mia was thriving, and Olivia was a wonderful addition to our lives. So, here's where things take a turn. A few weeks ago, I was out with Olivia, just grabbing dinner, when I got a frantic call from Mia. She was home alone, and Megan, yes, the same Megan who abandoned us 15 years ago, had shown up at our door, completely out of the blue. And she wasn't alone. She had some guy with her, Daniel, 40M, who she introduced as her boyfriend. Mia was in shock and didn't know what to do. When I got home, I was furious. Seeing Megan standing there, in my house, after all these years, made me extremely angry. She was crying, apologizing, saying she needed to explain herself. Mia was just standing there, wide-eyed, not knowing who these people really were. I lost it. I said some terrible things to Megan, things I probably shouldn't have, but I couldn't help it. She had no right to just walk back into our lives like nothing happened. After a while, we all sat down, and Megan started telling her story. She claimed that she had severe postpartum depression, and that's why she left. She said she spent the last 15 years finding herself and that Daniel had encouraged her to reconnect with us. According to her, she was finally ready to be a mother again and wanted to build a relationship with Mia. But that wasn't all. Megan had the audacity to suggest a shared custody arrangement. She actually believed she could just step back into Mia's life and play the role of the loving mother, as if the last 15 years hadn't happened. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I laughed in her face and told her she must be out of her mind. I made it clear that there was no way in hell I was going to share custody with someone who abandoned their child. I told her and Daniel to get out of my house, and that if they didn't leave, I'd call the police. I promised them that I'd be talking to my lawyer about my options, and that if she tried anything, I'd make sure she regretted it. They left after that, but I could tell this wasn't the last I'd see of them. Now here I am, trying to figure out what to do next. Mia is curious about her mother, and I get it. She's 15, and she's never really known her. But I'm worried. I don't trust Megan, and I'm afraid she's going to try and worm her way back into Mia's life. I don't know what her legal rights are, given that she abandoned us, but I'm not taking any chances. I'm doing my best to protect Mia while also respecting her curiosity. I've made it clear to her that it's okay to have questions, but that we need to be careful. Megan has shown she can't be trusted, and I'm not willing to let her hurt Mia the way she hurt me all those years ago. I guess what I'm asking is, am I the asshole for refusing to let Megan back into Mia's life? Am I wrong for wanting to protect my daughter from someone who walked out on her without a second thought? Update 1. Since Megan showed up at our door, things have gotten increasingly chaotic. Before I came home with Olivia that night, Megan had managed to get Mia's phone number, and now she won't stop calling and texting her. She's been bombarding Mia with messages, saying how sorry she is, how much she loves her, and how she wants to make up for lost time. On top of that, Megan's been sending gifts, expensive ones too. Jewelry, designer clothes, and even a brand new smartphone. Mia's overwhelmed, and to be honest, so am I. I've told Mia that she doesn't have to respond to anything if she doesn't want to, but I can see the confusion in her eyes. She doesn't know what to think or how to feel. But Megan didn't stop there. A few days ago, she showed up at Mia's school. She made a scene in front of the other students and teachers, practically begging Mia to talk to her. The school had to call me to come and deal with it. I had to drag Megan away, and she kept shouting that she'd do whatever it took to be part of Mia's life again. That night, Megan sent me a series of texts, saying that if I didn't let her see Mia, she'd take legal action to get visitation rights. The whole situation is getting out of control, and I'm starting to worry about what Megan might do next. Given how things are escalating, I decided it was time to consult with a lawyer. I needed to know what Megan's rights were, if any, and what I could do to protect Mia. The lawyer told me that Megan's rights were minimal, especially since she abandoned us without a trace for 15 years. The fact that she left Mia as an infant and didn't attempt to make contact until now works heavily in my favor. He advised me to document everything, every call, every text, every gift, because this could be crucial if things go to court. The lawyer also suggested that I consider getting a restraining order, especially after the incident at Mia's school. He said that Megan's behavior could easily be seen as harassment and that a restraining order would send a clear message that her actions aren't acceptable. I haven't made a decision about that yet, but it's something I'm seriously considering. As if things weren't bad enough, Megan has been pulling out all the stops to manipulate the situation. She's been telling Mia that I'm turning her against her, that I've been lying about why she left, and even that I was abusive during our relationship. She's claiming that I cheated on her, which is completely untrue. It's like she's trying to rewrite history to make herself the victim, and it's infuriating. Mia hasn't said much to me about it, but I can tell it's weighing on her. Megan's also been reaching out to my family, trying to gain their sympathy. But they're having none of it. My parents and sister are furious with her, and they've made it clear that they don't support her. My mom even called Megan a selfish, heartless woman to her face, which, honestly, was satisfying to hear. But it hasn't stopped Megan from trying to turn people against me. She's desperate, and it's starting to show. Daniel, her boyfriend, has also gotten involved, and things have taken a darker turn. He confronted me at my workplace last week. He was calm at first, but then he started making veiled threats, saying that if I didn't let Megan see Mia, there would be consequences. I don't know what he meant by that, but it was enough to make me uneasy. I've started documenting everything, just in case. Something tells me this is only going to get worse. I'm starting to suspect that Megan and Daniel have ulterior motives. The way they've been acting, it's like they're after something more than just reconnecting with Mia. I've heard stories about people trying to regain custody just to get financial support, and it's making me paranoid. I'm worried that Megan might try to sue for back child support or even alimony, despite the fact that we were never married. I'm planning to document every interaction with Megan and Daniel from now on. I'm also going to have a serious talk with Mia about everything that's happening. She's old enough to understand the situation, and I need her to know that she can come to me with anything, no matter what. My top priority is keeping her safe, both emotionally and physically, and I'll do whatever it takes to protect her. I'm bracing myself for whatever comes next, but I can't shake the feeling that this is just the beginning of something much bigger. I'll update you all again soon if anything new happens. Thanks for all the support so far, it means a lot. Update 2, after everything that's happened, I decided it was time to sit Mia down and tell her the full story of what happened with Megan. Up until now, I've been holding back, trying to protect her from the uglier details, but I realize that she deserves to know the truth. She's been caught in the middle of this mess, and it's only fair that she understands what really happened. So, I told her everything. I explained how Megan and I were happy at first, how things changed after she was born, and how Megan became increasingly distant and eventually left us without a word. I also told her about the things Megan has been saying recently, about me supposedly being abusive and cheating, and I made it clear that none of it was true. It was a difficult conversation, but Mia handled it better than I expected. She was upset, of course, but I could see a kind of relief in her eyes, like she was finally getting some answers to questions she didn't even know she had. After we talked, Mia told me that she needs some space from Megan. She said she doesn't want to see or talk to her for a while, which I completely understand. I told her that whatever she decides, I'll support her. The next time Megan tried to reach out, Mia ignored her. When Megan realized that Mia wasn't responding, she showed up at our house again, demanding to see her. I had to physically block her from coming inside, and she started screaming and crying, saying that I was ruining everything. It got so bad that Daniel had to drag her away, kicking and screaming. I think that was the moment when I truly realized how unstable she is. Shortly after that incident, I received a notice that Megan was filing for custody and visitation rights. I wasn't surprised, but it still hit me hard. The idea of going through a legal battle over Mia was something I'd hoped to avoid, but it was clear that Megan wasn't going to back down. My lawyer and I prepared a counter-filing, citing abandonment, emotional harm, and her recent harassment. We included all the documentation I'd been gathering, the texts, the calls, the school incident, and the scene at my house. My lawyer was confident that we had a strong case, but I knew it wasn't going to be easy. The court hearing started, and it was as stressful as you'd imagine. Megan and her lawyer painted a picture of a woman who had made mistakes but was now ready to be a mother. They tried to downplay the abandonment, framing it as a result of her supposed postpartum depression. But we had plenty of evidence to show that her actions went far beyond just a mental health issue. We argued that she had made no attempt to contact us for 15 years and that her sudden reappearance was suspicious, especially given the timing and her boyfriend's involvement. As the legal battle went on, some shocking details came to light. During the proceedings, it was revealed that Megan has a history of bipolar disorder, something she never disclosed to me when we were together. Apparently, she'd been diagnosed years before we even met but had kept it hidden. Her lawyer tried to use this as an excuse for her behavior, but it didn't do her any favors. It only reinforced the idea that she was unstable and unfit to have any custody over Mia. But that wasn't all. We also uncovered evidence that Megan and Daniel were in serious financial trouble. They were deep in debt, and it was becoming clear that they had ulterior motives for wanting to reconnect with Mia. My lawyer managed to dig up Daniel's criminal record, which included past charges of fraud. He'd been involved in several schemes to con people out of money, and it looked like he might have been trying to use Megan's situation as a way to get some sort of financial gain from me. This new information changed everything. It was clear that Megan and Daniel had been trying to manipulate the situation for their own benefit, and the judge wasn't impressed. The court ruled in my favor, dismissing Megan's case for custody and severely limiting her visitation rights. She was only allowed supervised visits with Mia, and those were to be determined by a court-appointed guardian. It was a huge relief, but the whole process left me and Mia emotionally drained. Update 3, just when I thought things were starting to settle down, I got a call from an unexpected source, Megan's younger sister, Amy. Amy and I had been close when Megan and I were together, but after Megan left, we lost touch. I hadn't heard from her in years, so I was surprised when she reached out. She told me that she had something important to discuss and asked if we could meet up. Given everything that had been going on, I was curious, so I agreed. When we met, Amy revealed that she'd been aware of Megan's disappearance but had only recently discovered the full truth about what happened. Apparently, about 5 years ago, she learned that Megan had been lying about her life during the time she was gone. Amy didn't know all the details back then, but she didn't want to interfere in my life, fearing it would only cause more pain. However, after hearing about the custody battle and how Megan had been manipulating the situation, she couldn't stay silent any longer. Amy offered to testify against Megan in court, revealing the lies and deception that Megan had been hiding for years. She wanted to set the record straight and help protect Mia from getting caught up in any more of Megan's schemes. I was hesitant at first, but after hearing what she had to say, I realized that Amy might be the key to finally putting an end to all of this. Amy's testimony in court was eye-opening, to say the least. She revealed that Megan hadn't left because of postpartum depression or because she needed to find herself. The truth was far more damaging. Shortly after Mia was born, Megan had an affair with a guy who was a regular at the coffee shop where she worked. He was older, had money, and he promised her a life of luxury if she left everything behind and ran away with him. And that's exactly what she did. Megan and this guy disappeared together, living off his savings in different parts of the country. They lived a carefree life until his money started to run out. When their funds dried up, Megan dumped him and returned home. That's when she met Daniel, who was no stranger to financial schemes and saw an opportunity in Megan's situation. Together, they concocted a plan to reconnect with Mia and me, hoping to gain some sort of financial benefit, whether through child support, alimony, or simply by manipulating us into helping them out. For years, I'd been carrying the guilt of not being able to keep my family together, and now I was learning that Megan had never intended to be a mother in the first place. She had just been looking out for herself, and Mia and I were nothing more than collateral damage in her selfish pursuit of a better life. The final nail in the coffin came when we dug deeper into Daniel's past. It turned out that he had discovered my recent success through mutual acquaintances. He knew I was doing well financially, and he saw Megan's connection to Mia as a potential goldmine. The plan was simple: get Megan to reconnect with Mia, establish some sort of custody or visitation rights, and then sue me for back child support and whatever else they could get their hands on. Daniel's involvement was purely about money, and Megan went along with it because she was desperate. She saw it as a way to regain some of the life she'd lost when she ran out of money with her last boyfriend. But the plan backfired spectacularly. With Amy's testimony and the evidence we'd gathered, their house of cards came crashing down. As the truth came out, Megan's world fell apart. Her family, friends, and even the few allies she had left turned against her. They couldn't believe the extent of her deception, and she quickly found herself isolated. Daniel, who had been so supportive when he thought there was money to be made, abandoned her as soon as the plan failed. He cleaned out whatever money they had left and disappeared, leaving Megan with nothing. In the end, Megan had a complete mental breakdown. She was hospitalized briefly, and when she was released, she was a shell of her former self. The court dismissed her case for custody, and I was granted full custody of Mia, with no obligations to Megan whatsoever. Mia has been handling all of this remarkably well, considering the circumstances. She's angry at Megan for the lies and the manipulation, but there's also a part of her that pities her mother. After everything that's happened, Mia decided that she wants to maintain minimal, supervised contact with Megan, just to see how things go. I've agreed to it, as long as it's on her terms and in a safe environment. Final update: throughout all of this chaos, Olivia has been my rock. She stood by me, supporting me through every twist and turn, and I don't know how I would have gotten through this without her. After everything settled down, I started thinking more about our future together. Olivia's been a part of Mia's life for years now, and she's been nothing but loving and supportive. I realized that I was ready to fully commit to her, to start a new chapter in our lives. A few weeks ago, I took the plunge and proposed to Olivia. It wasn't some grand, elaborate proposal, just a quiet, intimate moment between the two of us. But it was perfect. She said yes, and now we're planning our wedding. After everything that's happened, it feels good to focus on something positive, something that represents a fresh start for all of us. As for Megan, she's been maintaining sobriety and is seeking treatment for her bipolar disorder. I've heard through the grapevine that she's been trying to turn her life around, but it's hard to say how genuine her efforts are. She's been allowed monthly supervised visits with Mia, but those are strictly monitored and on Mia's terms. It's been a difficult adjustment, but I think it's been a good step for Mia in terms of closure. Megan has a long road ahead of her if she ever wants to rebuild any sort of trust with Mia. For now, their contact is limited, and that's the way it's going to stay until Mia decides otherwise. I've made it clear that I won't allow Megan to hurt her again, and I'm keeping a close eye on everything to ensure that doesn't happen. Thank you to everyone who's offered advice and support along the way. Your words have meant more to me than you could ever know. We're moving forward now, ready to heal and build a future that's free from the shadows of the past.